Again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome this afternoon to our webinar. Thank you all for joining us on this beautiful Thursday, Friday Eve afternoon. I hope you are doing well. My name is Rahema Kavuga, and I serve as the Synod Relations Manager here at Lutheran Church Extension Fund, and we are very excited to kick off our summer series entitled Growing in Christ, as we take a look at ways that we can grow in Christ physically, spiritually, mentally, and finally putting all four of those together as we live out our Christian vocation. Today we kick off this series taking a look at our physical wellness, and I'm very excited to have Megan Sherman, who is a health and wellness educator at Concordia Plans, joining us to speak about how to personalize your plate. Before we begin, and I turn this over to Megan, would you please join me in a word of prayer? Heavenly Father, I thank and praise you for your bountiful goodness and for another day that we can live and serve you. As we continue to walk this earthly life, we thank you for the daily bread which you provide for us, and ask that you continue to nourish us. And we know that we are ultimately nourished through your word, and may we be fed today through the words of Megan and through our daily interactions with one another. All this I pray in your name, amen. So a couple of things before we get started. Just please note that you are muted and your camera's turned off. We are recording this, and it will be released at the end of our series. So at the end of July, you'll see all four of these being out on our social media, so watch out for that. If you have any questions or any issues, please feel free to drop that into the chat at any point. I will be glad to help, and there will be times for questions and answers at the end. So if you have any questions, feel free to submit it now, or you'll be able to do that at the end. And like I said, we will be recording this and go on and share that with you at the end of our series. I also wanted to share one more feature with you, which is if you go to lcef.org/webinars, which is where we'll host all of these webinars, and you can get more information. You'll actually see that we've added a downloadable booklet. So there are some additional resources that Megan, as well as all of our other speakers for this summer, have provided as they do their presentations. And so you can have that and download it anytime at your leisure as additional resources. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know. But this time I'd like to turn it over to Megan Sherman, who is the health and wellness educator at Concordia Plans. Megan?
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here today to speak with you all about how to personalize your plate. I get especially excited this time of year because at least in Missouri, and I think everywhere else, everything is in full bloom, and summer is nearing, which means that I've already kind of started to notice the extreme colors in the produce section, and it seems like the fruits and veggies that I'm eating tend to have a little bit more of a burst of flavor than maybe in the winter months. So it's a great time to be talking about nutrition with all of you today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen at this point. Hopefully that goes up. There we go. Perfect. Just so that you can see the screen in its entirety here. So I mentioned that's a great time of year to talk about nutrition. Nutrition is a part of our everyday life, but this is a great reminder whenever everything is in bloom, that God loves us so much that he has provided us with all the wonderful foods and nutrients that we need to survive and function at our best. And we truly are blessed that we have such wonderful foods to provide our bodies with. And as this kind of presentation had mentioned, the personalize your plate, God made us all unique. So I'm really excited to share kind of some tips that will help you personalize your plate while ensuring that you get the best foods for your health. So now I am a health and wellness educator with Concordia Plans. I've been with Concordia Plans for about a year and a half. My background is in health promotion. I have a nutrition minor, but I am not a registered dietitian. So I have a special behind the scenes guest with me today, Sarah Correnti, who is a registered and licensed dietitian. Sarah Correnti is the manager of health and welfare here at Concordia Plans. Prior to that role, she actually sat in my role as a health and wellness educator. And prior to that, she was a dietitian in a clinical setting. Therefore, her expertise is going to come in handy with the Q&A. So if there's any questions that come about that are beyond my scope of practice or knowledge, Sarah is going to be there to help answer your question with her wonderful expertise. So thank you for Sarah being on here as kind of our behind the scenes special guest today as well. And hopefully I will leave plenty of time for a Q&A at the end. But as mentioned, you can also start to ask those questions throughout the presentation today. So throughout the presentation, I am going to be referencing some really great public health resources that I wanted to kind of introduce to all of you. These are resources that you actually have access to as well. So if you're ever wanting to get kind of future tips and guidance on nutrition, this would be a great place to start. So first, we're going to look at the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. I cannot take the credit for the title of today's presentation. This was actually the theme for this year's National Nutrition Month, the Personalize Your Plate. And this is put on by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. They are the world's largest organization of food and nutrition professionals who are committed to improving the nation's health and really advancing kind of the profession of dietetics through research and education. So they had some great themes that were put into place with the Personalize Your Plate month this year. So even though it was in March, National Nutrition Month, that doesn't mean that we can only talk about good nutrition during that month. So they had some great tips to consider throughout the year. You'll see these themes in our discussion today as we talk about choosing a variety of foods that really you prefer. So it's unique to you from each food group. And we're going to look at the food groups specifically. They also added this kind of theme of embracing the role of family history and culture on food choices, which I think is really great because I'm sure everyone on this call can think of a special relationship they have with foods or a family favorite dish that has been shared with family, friends, coworkers, during celebrations, during holidays, that we have a really good kind of relationship and memory with certain foods. So we're blessed to have that time with family and be reminded of all the wonderful blessings that we are given. So I'm so glad they made that part of one of the themes this year as well. And then again, a healthy eating style that is really unique to you. And this is a good time for me to mention that today, we're going to be looking at nutritional guidance that's for the general adult public. There are varied guidelines based on various ages. So obviously, an adult guidance is not going to be the same as an infant or someone in their teenage years or even a senior. So we're specifically looking at adult recommendations. You may be an individual that has specific dietary needs, whether it's due to a medical condition, allergy. And so as we go through the guidance today, it's important that you remain with those guidance that you have received from your doctor, or maybe it's a registered dietitian that you're working with, because those recommendations are specific to what you need and unique to you. So always consult with your doctor. If there's a recommendation that we cover today that doesn't fit what you're doing because you were recommended something specific from your doctor, continue with that plan from your medical professional. Okay, so the other resource that we're going to spend a lot of time with is looking at my plate. So this is a graphic that was put together by the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's actually been around now for, surprise, 10 years this month, which is kind of cool that they're celebrating this kind of 10th birthday starting this month. But the whole My Plate graphic is really around trying to better visualize or provide a visual icon for individuals to think about when they're putting together their daily meals. So they stress the importance of a healthy eating routine, and again, specific to what stage of life you're in, and how that varies based on stage of life. They recommend a variety of fruits and vegetables. Specifically, we'll go back to, you'll see the icon a few times throughout the presentation today, but filling half of your plate, trying to fill half of your plate with fruits and vegetables. And then also kind of that mindfulness around making every bite count. We're not going to dive in a ton to the mindfulness piece, but I do have a great resource at the end that I'll be able to share with you that does really kind of make that connection with mindful eating. That will be a great option for those that are in the Concordia Health Plan, and even those that are not can take advantage of that resource as well. So as I mentioned, My Plate is celebrating their 10th anniversary. And this really replaced what we all kind of remember. I believe it was released early 90s with the food guide pyramid, and it lasted for quite a while when making recommendations for food choices. Then they kind of moved to this My Pyramid concept, where they were really trying to stress the importance of physical activity as part of also kind of a healthy lifestyle habit to have with eating. But ultimately, we are now here with the My Plate concept, which I again really appreciate, kind of that visual, simple icon. And it's also, again, giving kind of what foods may fall into each category, but it's not being super specific on what you have to eat, how your plate has to look at every meal. So whenever I'm talking about anything kind of health related, I like to provide you all with a place to go to get more resources. So feel free, if you can multitask, if you can do this throughout the presentation today, but this is their website, myplate.gov, has wonderful information. It had actually been a little while since I'd been out on the site, and I was really impressed this past year as I was really diving into some of the new features that they have and all the great information that they're providing out to the public. So definitely something to keep in your favorites if you're working on healthy eating and looking for some information, education, tools, and resources. So feel free to follow along today. And I specifically have kind of highlighted this Eat Healthy kind of bar here that you can see in kind of the top navigation. I'll point out a couple other of these throughout the presentation, but this is where it really breaks down each food group and provides some really good detail as to what might be the right amounts for you, the health benefits of each food group, and some of the foods that are included there. In general, foods, they all have their unique properties. So they're all going to benefit our health in different ways because they have a different nutrition component to each one of them. But overall, these healthy foods are really playing a part in our health by reducing our risk for chronic conditions such as heart disease, type 2 diabetes, stroke, in some cases, certain types of cancers as well. And they also increase the variety of nutrients that we give our body that protect like through immunity, density of our bones, keep us strong, and really fuel our body with good energy to function on a day-to-day basis. And there's also going to be kind of a question also as we go through each of these components of really how much should I have? And this is again where this site comes in handy because this is again personalized to you. This depends on your age, gender, height, weight, how active you are. For some women, it may also depend if they're pregnant or breastfeeding. So all that's taken into account to really provide you with how much you should have. I'll give some general guidance as we go through each component, but I definitely recommend using this My Plate Plan feature to really get the personalized how much you should have of each food group. You can also do this for loved ones. So if you are caring for children or seniors, you can go through that process for them too, if you're preparing meals for them, to see really where they fit in with how much they should be getting as well. So I've kind of prepped us enough about how we're going to dive into each of these My Plate categories. And what I've done here, instead of talking to you about what is a fruit and going through the quantities of it, I really just wanted to provide you with some good tips to help you get started. So you can see on the icon again, half of your plate when you think about preparing a meal, it should be fruits and vegetables. So typically fruit is exactly what you're thinking of, but it can include things like fruit juice, 100% fruit juice. Dried fruit is another one that also falls into this category as well. And then typically, so again, personalized by age, gender, physical activity, but in general, about 1.5 cups to 2.5 cups is what's recommended for adults. So that's the amount that you would get. And in general, about 1 cup of fruit would equal like a half a cup of dried fruit would be considered kind of 1 cup in the fruit group. 1 apple would be considered 1 cup of fruit for your day. So here's some tips that are listed here to really help you incorporate some fruit into your daily routine. One of the best ways is to start your day off with it, right? So that way you're not missing out on any of those nutrition aspects throughout the day. And I think typically we think of fruit when we're preparing our breakfast. So it's an easy one to incorporate. Another thing is really to have ready to eat fruits available for quick snacks throughout your day. Or if you're preparing snacks to take to work or for an outing with family and friends, having that kind of prepped and ready to go so that when you are hungry and maybe you don't have access to a meal at a certain time, you have access to healthy snacks with fruit. Dried fruit is a great way if you're on the go. That way you don't have to worry about keeping it refrigerated and fresh. It's a great one to just grab and have with you. You can also kind of start to look and explore for recipes that just include fruit in them. So we don't usually probably think of them included in many of our hot meals a lot of times, even though they can be, but typically adding them to things like salads would be a good recommendation, but definitely not opposed. So my husband always thinks it's odd that I want to add pineapple to my pizza. I know that's a thing that some people are like, why would you add fruit to your pizza? I enjoy it. So any opportunity you can add fruit is a great thing. And then last but not least, if you have that sweet tooth, I am definitely one. I have children who often got that genetic, I think, taste bud from me where they have that sweet tooth. And I definitely crave chocolate in moderation, of course. But on occasion, I try to substitute it with a fruit instead of going to a dessert. Typically, that's going to be a little bit higher in calories. So if I'm trying to stay within my calorie allotment for the day, I'm going to choose a fruit because it will help kind of satisfy that sweet tooth for me. Now, I didn't mention too, but if you have tips, you can include that in the chat throughout the presentation as well for others to also get some of those tips that you have incorporated in your daily routine along the way. So share as much as you can, as much as you want. So the next category is the vegetables category. Again, pretty much probably what you're thinking, a vegetable is a vegetable. It does include 100% vegetable juice, so that does count. It can be raw vegetables, cooked vegetables, fresh, frozen, canned, dehydrated, mashed, all of the above counts as your vegetable. This can also include those sometimes one of the subgroups that may be overlooked are the beans and lentils. Those kind of have some starchy components, but they also can be included here in the vegetable category. So on average, it's recommended to consume about 2 to 4 cups of vegetables a day. 1 cup of raw or cooked vegetables or vegetable juice would be an example. 2 cups of raw leafy salad greens would also be considered 1 cup from the vegetable group. So here we have listed some great ways to start incorporating veggies into your meal planning. One of the things here is we mentioned choosing the foods that you like and you enjoy. But that doesn't mean that you should shy away from trying new things. Trying new things, you're expanding your palate, which also means you're expanding the possibility of getting some really great essential and vital nutrients that you may be missing out on in the past without consuming that. So definitely try to incorporate new ways to bring in vegetables into your routine. I know for my children, this is a big one. I've read, you should try with your kids, and the doctor, the pediatrician mentioned this as well, at least try to get them to eat something 8 to 10 times before you say, okay, they just don't like it. And this was really easy with my son because he would actually just do it. He would just try something, he would not like it, and then he'd go and put it back in his mouth again. And so he was actually easy, but my daughter, she tried it once, didn't like it, and it was like she had this mental block where she never wanted to try that food again. So it's always been a struggle to kind of remind her, hey, now you might like it. So maybe you didn't like it at one time, but maybe now you do. So always trying to expand as much as possible. One way you can do it too, by kind of expanding and seeing if you like a vegetable that maybe you haven't in the past, is trying to cook it a different way. So, you can roast vegetables, whether it's in your oven or on the grill. You can have them raw. You can boil them. There's lots of different ways that you can prep your vegetables. So maybe trying a new way of preparing them might also work as you're trying to add new veggies to your plate. Something else here that I think is great is shredding. So, adding shredded carrots to maybe lettuce. And this kind of falls into that adding color to your plate. So you may be really good at eating salads at lunch every week and you enjoy that, but maybe it's just a leafy green salad, which is great. That's awesome. But maybe thinking about how you can incorporate some more color into that so you're getting some more nutrients in your diet, some different nutrients in your diet. So you can do this by adding shredded carrots. You can add little tomatoes if they're in season. Lots of different options there. Obviously, snacking on vegetables is great. Stir fry is a great way to kind of get all those veggies in one meal. So that's a great option to think about as well. And again, if you have more, add them to the chat. So there are lots of ways that you can incorporate fruits and veggies into your daily routine. One of the documents that I provided that you'll have access to is this one right here, the 20 ways to enjoy more fruits and vegetables. So that's a 2-page document that you can look into. And then the other document here is a document put together for our Wellness Champion Network, but that doesn't mean it's just for them. So you'll have access to this as well. So when you're thinking about fruits and veggies and filling up half your plate, again, most importantly, stick with the things that you enjoy, that you like, but when you can add more color in, just the better. So this is a great way to kind of see if you're kind of eating the rainbow, if you will. So adding that variety, adding those colors, making sure that you're getting all the different nutrients that are going to help fuel your body to the best of its ability. So definitely check these documents out after the webinar today. And I may even have a few additional documents to provide kind of based on questions and things that come through today as well. All right, so next we're gonna look at grains. So after you've thought about kind of filling your plate with half fruits and vegetables, the other half is gonna be grains and protein. Now it's always recommended that on the grain side, you try to consume half of those grains being whole grains. So all of the examples and tips here are going to be kind of focused in on how you can incorporate whole grains into your diet. Again, doesn't mean that they all have to be whole grains, but anytime you can incorporate a whole grain into a meal, the better. So on average, it's recommended for adults to consume about 6 to 10 ounces of grains a day. This would be, think about like one slice of bread is typically around a cup of kind of ready to eat cereal, and then half a cup of cooked rice, cooked pasta, or even cooked cereal would be considered 1 ounce equivalent to the grains group. So one slice of bread, easy, equals 1 ounce of the grains group. And then listed here, all the different ways that you can incorporate it into your meal. You know, I found it really helpful when I was learning how to read nutrition labels to look for the handy labels that are on the food groups, and whole grain labels are really helpful when you're trying to find out if it is truly indeed a whole grain. Because as you may know, you may go to the store, go and think you're doing the right thing, grabbing that wheat bread, but indeed it's still enriched flour versus that whole grain. So I always looked for the bright yellow label just to kind of help me along the way. And then once I knew for sure I was getting that whole grain, trying to make sure that when I make my sandwiches for the week, I'm using whole grains as much as possible. Occasionally I'll use whole wheat in baked goods. Sometimes I mix whole wheat with regular flour, just so that if it's maybe too much, those that aren't quite into the wheat, if I mix them together, it tends to be a little less noticeable sometimes. And that way individuals are still getting the good nutrition from the whole wheat. Something that I always forget is that you can get whole grain pasta. So this is something that I think is a really easy, pasta's easy to prepare. It's quick. And so going for that whole grain so you have it in your pantry when you're making that quick meal is a great opportunity to get whole grains in. Brown rice, so if you're adding in brown rice into any of your stir fries, or if you're having, you know, even just kind of your typical maybe chicken and rice for the week, you can use brown rice to make sure that you're getting that whole grain. And then I always seem to also forget that there's whole grain crackers. So when you're thinking about making those healthy snacks for the week, try to find the whole grain crackers. You're not going to notice much difference because usually you have those crackers with something else like turkey, hummus. You can add vegetables to it, have a nice avocado there. So that's definitely a great option to get in your grains as well. And then same side of this plate that we're going to look at is the protein side. So with protein, always trying to think about lean proteins as much as possible, but the protein group is going to focus in on things like seafood, meat, poultry, chicken, eggs. You also get the beans and peas and lentils, nuts, seeds that also fall into the protein group as well. How much is needed? Again, on a typical average adult, about 5 to 7 ounces a day. What that equals, so if we look at 1 ounce of the protein group, that's going to be 1 ounce of meat. It could also be a fourth a cup of cooked beans. 1 egg is a good example of 1 ounce of protein, and also 1 tablespoon of peanut butter would fall under the 1 ounce equivalent from the protein group. And then as far as just those tips of how to incorporate good, healthy proteins into your diet, you can, again, look at the lean protein options as much as possible, but including beans and peas and those lentils and nuts is another great way to get kind of the plant-based sources of protein and get some additional nutrients from the plant-based ways as well. The seafood, adding that in twice a week, that's going to include all those great omegas and oils that you'd be missing out on throughout the week that have great health benefits. And then there's the recommendation of kind of your leaner cuts of meat. Obviously, kind of the skinless poultry is probably what most people think about with lean meat, but you can also get, round cuts of steak, and you can always find kind of the meat that has that kind of 90%, your ground beef, 90% lean, 80% lean. Those are great options as well. And last but not least, as we break down the My Plate, we're going to look at the dairy group. So this isn't going to include everything from milk, yogurt, cheese, lactose-free milk is even going to be included here. Fortified soy milk is an option. And of course, Greek yogurt. I know it falls into the yogurt category, but that would also be included in this group. How much is needed in general? 3 cups a day is what is recommended from the dairy aspect. When you look at 1 cup from the dairy group, that's going to equal obviously 1 cup of milk. Could be 1 cup of yogurt or soy milk. When you look at cheese, obviously it maybe get a little bit tougher. So 1.5 ounce of cheese is considered 1 cup from the dairy group. And again, if you go back to the myplate.gov website and you're going through each of the different components to the My Plate, there's some great kind of recommendations as far as the amounts for you, but then also kind of equivalent. So if you're looking for something specific in the dairy group or any of these groups and you want to know kind of what that measurement looks like, it gives you some great examples there. And some great tips to including it in your daily diet. Yogurt, adding this with fruit is a great way to get more than one of the food groups into one of your snacks. You can add milk, so getting that good calcium in your diet, to coffee drinks or smoothies. I love my smoothies this time of year as well. Smoothies is a great way also to put in vegetables. So I often will put in some spinach or leafy greens. Usually it's not noticeable if I have some good fruits and even some of the dairy to kind of help cover it up for my kids. I enjoy it, but they need a little bit of cover up sometimes. And then also, I love this one, using plain or Greek yogurt to make dips in place of sour cream. When I first tried that one, I thought there was no way I was going to be able to replace the taste of sour cream with my dips. I loved it too much, but Greek yogurt really does a great job as a healthy option to getting that dairy into your snacks throughout the day. Spice up those raw vegetables if you're using those for your healthy snack. So we really covered kind of what that My Plate concept is, all the components that fall into that My Plate. But what about your beverage that goes along with each meal? Now, it's no surprise, nothing new here, that obviously water is always going to be a great option to choose instead of maybe a very sugary drink. I always say, starting your day off with water, making sure that you get that good hydration to start your day with. It's really hard. I'm a big coffee drinker as well. So I always try to alternate. If I am having my coffee, my morning coffee, alternate with water as much as possible. These are some great tips if you're not a water drinker, you don't like the taste of water. Again, a good time of year right now to kind of spruce it up with some very flavorful fruits by adding in some lemon, lime, orange slices, mint, strawberries, any type of berry is great when you're kind of making those infused waters. Also, if you're choosing other beverages, always maybe just take a look at the nutrition label. See what kind of added sugars are on the label, how many calories are in that specific beverage, and make sure to kind of include that with your daily calorie amount if it's something that you're looking at, because it definitely, in addition to the added sugars, potentially will have some added calories as well. And for my coffee drinkers, again, those that like the fancy coffees, sometimes, you just have to have and treat yourself to that coffee drink, but maybe skipping the whipped cream, if there's added chocolate or that lovely caramel drizzle. Use that for special occasions. So when you're treating yourself, maybe not on a typical everyday routine. That again is just going to cut out some of the added sugars in that beverage, and also going to cut out some of the calories as well. So there was a lot of tips there that we kind of looked at. You may be going like, okay, I got a general feel for what the My Plate is. I got it, include a variety of fruits and vegetables and other foods in my diet when I can, fill half my plate with fruits and veggies. Think about kind of prepping that plate to include all the different food groups when possible. But that also kind of leaves you a little bit kind of maybe scratching your head as far as like, well, how am I going to do this? How am I going to start incorporating this in? And the truth is, it doesn't have to be an all at once thing. It does take, though, sometimes some planning and meal prepping. And these are really two different things. So a lot of times they're clumped together because they kind of go together. But it's good to give yourself an allotment of time for each of these things when you're thinking about meal planning and prepping. So obviously meal planning is just that process of thinking about when and what you're going to eat. And then the prepping is actually putting it all together. So here's some tips that just kind of make it a little bit easier to get started with this process. Try as much as possible to pick days that you can set aside time to plan. A lot of people will do this on the weekends just because that's when they tend to have more time. And they can also follow it up with a plan and maybe a shopping list if they're doing their shopping over the weekend. You can also kind of just start small. So you don't have to decide that today you're going to start making every single meal look just like the My Plate and that you're going to have all new recipes and try all these new foods. Maybe just start small. So brainstorm maybe 3 things that you'd like to eat each week. And do that just every week so that you can help plan out your week, and then you can also plan that shopping list. And then make sure that you're dedicating time to prepare the meal. So I definitely fall in this category where I will do a lot of the planning and make sure that I've really thought out time of days that I can actually plan out what it's going to look like for my meals throughout the week. But then I forget that I need to dedicate time to actually kind of prep those foods so that we eat them throughout the week. And a good way to do this is kind of prepping the ingredients when you have that time. So if there's any cutting involved with your fruits and veggies or marinating that you want to do with your meals, you can do that ahead of time, and then that can just sit in your refrigerator and be ready when it's time to actually cook the meals. Another way to do this is to cook all of your meals for the upcoming week and freeze them and just have them available to kind of heat up and have ready throughout the week. So definitely something to consider is the planning and preparation. When you're eating healthy, it does take some of this time to do. And we're all very busy and have a lot of things that we are trying to get done throughout the day. So trying to set aside time will really help you accomplish those healthy eating goals that you may set for yourself. I mentioned the myplate.gov site. They actually have a section here at the top again called My Plate Kitchen. And this includes tons of great recipes that really follow the My Plate guidance. So you can filter this area for certain maybe foods that you want to use. There's equipment that you maybe have available, and it's going to provide you with some great recipes to think about. There was a video on one of these I watched the other day. It had a great kind of stuffed pepper cooking process. Then they were doing it with children. And I thought, this is great. I didn't even think that this is something that I could pull my kids in to help me with. So it gave me some great ideas of some new meals that we can do together, involve them in the process and get them excited about the foods that they're going to eat as well. So that's a great resource if you're looking for how do I follow the My Plate with actual meals that I can put into play. Look at the recipes there on their website to get some help along the way. And then the last thing I'll talk about here with the My Plate website is they actually do have an app that you can use as well. You can download this from Apple Store, Google Play. And this app is just a really great feature when you're trying to set goals for yourself. It allows you to set goals in all of the areas that we talked about. So you'll set goals for your fruit consumption, for your vegetables, and then it's going to kind of help you track that throughout the week. So they have some great kind of notifications along the way that will remind you to kind of check in. It's a super easy, friendly app to use. They even have some fun challenges and kind of badges that you'll earn along the way as well. So if you're looking for some tools and resources, these are available for anyone to use. You don't have to have a login or a registration when you download the app. But if it's something that you want to use on kind of multiple devices, so if you want to use maybe a tablet one day and then the next day you're on your phone, then it does recommend that you set up an account so that information can be shared between devices for that consistency. So definitely something that you'll want to look at to kind of help you along, support the goals that you're putting in play for you, and again, are personalized for you. So no one is going to have the same goals and challenges and badges earned along the way as you. It's going to be a unique journey for yourself, and this is a great way to track it. So I'm going to kind of flow with this theme a little bit and talk about a few more tools and resources that are available to individuals to kind of help you personalize your healthy eating journey. One of the options here that we're going to look at is available to Concordia Health Plan members for free, but anybody can use what was formerly known as Naturally Slim and is now referred to as Wonder Health, which I'm very excited about their new branding and their new name. It's looking great, and it definitely encompasses a little bit more of all of what they do. So this is a curriculum-based program that is ideal for weight loss or weight maintenance. But it's not all about weight loss here. That tends to be a result of those that go through the program, is that they do lose weight, but it's really focusing on specific eating habits. So I mentioned that mindfulness at the beginning, making every bite count. This program really brings in how to be mindful of your eating habits. It's not telling you what that you should eat, but more kind of guiding you on how you should be eating, and then also how to incorporate other healthy lifestyles in your routine. So physical activity, sleep, stress management, all of that is part of their curriculum as well. So they kind of start you out with this 10-week kind of foundation period, but then they actually stay with you for the remainder of the year to really help ensure that you have guidance and access to put all the practices that you learned in that initial 10 weeks into action. So a great program for those in the Concordia Health Plan. This is a free resource for you to enroll in. If you have a spouse enrolled in the health plan, they also have access to this. So definitely something to look into. And if you're not in the Concordia Health Plan, still you can go out to the Wonder Health, formerly Naturally Slim site, and you can enroll as well. There is just a fee for that enrollment into the program. The other one I want to mention is again for Concordia Health Plan members called Vitality. Vitality is a great platform for tracking all types of healthy habits. So nutrition is definitely a component of the Vitality program. And what's great is the more you engage in Vitality, you actually get rewarded along the way. So you can get rewarded in things like gift cards, or you can use rewards for fitness devices that you want to purchase. There's even some great opportunities to get gym rebates for those that are focusing in on their physical activity goals through Vitality. But I wanted to point out specifically some of the nutrition focused activities within Vitality. So we talked a little bit about how in the My Plate site, there's a way that you can really engage and see how much is specific to you, how much of each food group would be specific to your needs, but really kind of assessing and understanding what your needs are when it comes to health and wellness is a really great starting place when you're thinking about setting goals and kind of where you want to go. And there is a Vitality Health Review, which is essentially a health assessment tool that's going to ask you questions about your current eating habits. It's also going to ask you questions about physical activity, stress, and it's going to make recommendations. It's going to tell you things that your areas of your health that you're doing really well in, and areas that you may want to spend some more time focusing on. So that's a great option to look at to get some nutrition guidance. You can also set healthy eating goals within Vitality. So they have a number of different goals that you can focus in on. And then when you check in with those goals, you're going to get awarded points, which again, those points will turn into rewards that you can redeem at a later time. And then there's also nutrition courses, lots of courses here. They're all worth about 300 points per completed unit, and you can do up to 3 of them per year. These courses would be things like, one of the courses is how to eat healthy for weight management. Another one's eating to boost energy levels. And there's another course on demystifying fats, sugars, and salt. So that's just a few of them that are listed in Vitality. But these are really just great ways to educate yourself on more tips for eating healthy that you can incorporate in your daily routine. And then I wanted to mention with Vitality, yes, nutrition is a big component within the sites, but so are so many other things. So if you're someone who is focusing on healthy eating, but maybe you're also focusing on prevention, health prevention, maybe you're focusing on your spiritual well-being, all of those activities can also be part of your wellness journey within Vitality, where you're earning points and getting rewarded along the way. So definitely check out on the Vitality site. You can see all of those options for those that are enrolled in Vitality if you go to the points planner. If you're not enrolled in Vitality and you are in the Concordia Health Plan, definitely recommend it. The registration is a super easy process to go through. So definitely worth the time, and we'll definitely give you some great tips to help better personalize and customize your overall wellness journey. So with that, we are getting close to time. So I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for any of the questions that have come through. At this time, I'm going to check out the chat here. All right. Oh, I'll turn my video.
Thank you so much, Megan, for that presentation. Definitely learned a lot. And I want to give people I want to be mindful of time and give people a moment or two if they have any questions. I was just going to ask, I mean, I learned a couple of things as well. And I was going to ask, you know, as we kind of enter back into the world, you know, COVID was just an interesting time for people and their wellness. I won't speak about my personal wellness during it, but you know, the joke of like, did you gain your COVID-19 just like in college with your freshman 15? So, you know, with everything you presented, what would be like the best advice that you would give as people think about being intentional about their nutrition, especially being reflective of just, you know, kind of re-entering society past this pandemic right now?
Yeah, so there was a recent study that I was looking at kind of on the impacts of COVID, and it was, I think around maybe, you know, over 40%. I think it was actually close to like 47% of individuals that reported weight gain since the start of COVID. And I believe the average weight gain that this study had looked at that was gained by participants was 29 pounds. So it really goes to show how the change in our environment and really the impact of our stress that we had going through the pandemic, still going through it. Mm-hmm. Luckily, there's a little bit of light, I think, that we're seeing at the end of the tunnel here. it really disrupted our daily routines. I mean, it really did. We were put in brand new environments. We were maybe some individuals were tasked with trying to juggle virtual worlds with in-person worlds. And it really changed that routine. So I would recommend trying to get back to a routine that is, again, personalized for you. So part of that is going to be maybe taking some time to think through what does my current kind of routine look like when it comes to healthy eating? Where can I start making maybe just 3 small changes in my diet? And maybe diet is looking good, you're eating some healthy things, but maybe it's the physical activity that you're recognizing. So I would recommend kind of expanding beyond even just nutrition, even though I know for me, nutrition was definitely a part of the pandemic, and having access to a refrigerator only 10 feet away or 10 steps away maybe was definitely a little different than in the past. So I would say, kind of starting fresh, taking that time to really dive into what are my current habits looking like and what do I want them to be? And starting with maybe 3 simple steps to kind of help you get there and set those goals to be able to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely need to start the 3 steps for sure. So I appreciate that. Along those lines, with just being prepared and taking a look, Patricia asked, what does a make ahead meal look like for your family? And I know you've got 2 kids, as you mentioned. So what does that look like for you and your family?
Yeah, so we have done kind of a combination of 2 things. Obviously, kind of, and it seems maybe like it's not always the healthiest choice, but for things that are just easy to make sure that I have in the fridge, ready to go. Not necessarily a meal, but smoothies. So I love taking fruit at the end of the week that I haven't used and is about to go bad. And instead of throwing it in the trash, we cut it up, we put it in big plastic bags. And I typically will just add whatever I have into one bag, and that's kind of what we have for smoothies as the week goes on. So maybe not necessarily a meal per se, but that's something that my kids love and is a big hit in our household. The other one, again, maybe not as healthy all the time, but casserole. So I try to add in as many vegetables into a casserole as I can to kind of mask what my kids are eating. So they're a little bit thrown off by some of the other flavors that they're getting. And that's a good way for us to get not only easy things that I can put into the freezer, but also incorporate some of those vegetables as well.
Yeah.
Sarah, I know you have kids too. Do you have?
Yeah, I have 2 little ones, littler than Megan's. So the name of the game at our house is it's got to be fast. So last night, one of our go-tos, it's not even anything that we had to really prep in advance, but we had a fresh salmon fillet in the fridge that we got from Aldi. I put that in the oven, broil it about 5-6 minutes on each side. And then while I'm doing that, I microwave broccoli and I microwave some rice pouches. And then we have a nice balanced meal with a little bit of nice, heart healthy fish and protein, some whole grains and some vegetables. And it takes about 15 minutes. And my kids love it, especially if I put like some Parmesan cheese on that broccoli, then that broccoli's gone.
Yeah, that's great. That is great. Thank you both for sharing those examples. I don't have any children, so I don't have to deal with that, but I am about fast. And I think I'm a big fan of like Costco's ready-made salads, because then I kind of like what you said with the salmon, I just simply take a piece of chicken and add that to it to get some additional protein, and it is very filling. So that's been great for a single person on the go. So I appreciate that. Got 2 more questions in about 5 minutes here. Joyce asked, is there any fees associated with Vitality? I think the answer is no.
There is not. So the only time where maybe there would be finances exchanged is if someone is purchasing maybe like a fitness device or something on Vitality. You can use your rewards, any rewards that you have acquired throughout your engagement with Vitality. But there may be some other fees that you have that you can't redeem for reward yet at that time. So at that point, then there is a fee, but to participate, it doesn't cost anything if you're a Concordia Health Plan member. And also spouses that are enrolled in the plan, they can also participate. So.
Great, thank you. And Sarah, I think you might answer it, or maybe Megan, both. The question is, almond milk is popular now. Is it healthy?
Yeah, Sarah, go for it.
You're taking it. I always preface these kind of questions with what is healthy to you. Healthy is going to look a little different for each person. If your health priority pushes you to need to make sure you're watching the amount of fat that you're taking in, almond milk might be a really good option for you, especially if you have maybe elected a vegetarian lifestyle and you don't want to do cow's milk. It would be a great option. If you're looking to milk to be something that is helping to get more protein in, almond milk would then not be the best choice. While it is a dairy-free alternative and it's, friendly to animals, the vegans love it, it's not gonna be high in protein like some of the other options. So you kind of have to weigh out what is most important to you. And also, do you like almonds? Like, if you don't like almonds, then just don't drink almond milk. So always remember your priorities and your preferences when making those choices that are best for you.
And along those lines, speaking of, you had just said, like, if you have to like almonds, the next question that Janet asked is, what nuts can you use as snacks? Which I think almonds is one that could fit in that category, right?
I was just going to say almonds.
Yeah. The best nuts are the ones that you like. My husband's a cashew fan. I'm a sometimes almond fan. I choose to spend my calories in other places, like Megan was saying, like chocolate. So, so if you like nuts, find the one that you like. Do remember that nuts are healthy fats. They do bring a little bit of protein as well. But all in all, it's a very concentrated calorie bite. So meaning, like if you take a bite of an apple, you're going to get like 1 or 2 calories per bite. If you take a bite of an almond, which is, let's be real, the whole almond, you get many more calories. So you have to also weigh that in with your food choices. Are you trying to pack in a bunch of calories at one time? Or are you trying to be able to eat more food? So then you kind of have to spread out the calories. But then almonds might not fit, or maybe they do, I don't know.
And I know it's probably a little bit more expensive, but to kind of help control that, I know we've gotten big on like the 100-calorie packs of nuts that they have, just to make sure if we have a bag of pistachios at our house, the whole bag will be gone. Mm-hmm. And so I will sometimes spend the extra if I have it to have it separated ahead of time. Otherwise, we try to do it as much as possible. If we have storage, bags or containers, we'll try to break it up as soon as we get it home so that doesn't become an issue. So that's always
if anyone is just plain bored with nuts and you haven't tried the cocoa dusted almonds, they're not chocolate covered almonds. Those are different. But these are cocoa dusted, which you would think is probably really bitter and gross, but it adds just like a touch of like a sweetness. And when it mixes in with the fats of the almonds, it actually feels very creamy and very chocolate-like. But you're not getting all of that added sugar like you would with chocolate-covered almonds. So it could just kind of mix up your almond day if that's something that you're looking for.
Well, thank you. Thank you, ladies. And with less than a minute left, we just had a last question on, can you use Vitality if you don't have Concordia plans?
So Vitality does not have like a fee for service outside of the Concordia Health Plan. So unfortunately, you do have to be part of the Concordia Health Plan to take advantage of Vitality. There's other things out there. So we covered a lot today with the myplate.gov, a lot of good education there, some great tracking tools. You're not going to get fun rewards, but you'll get some virtual badges and things like that along the way. So I definitely recommend taking advantage of some of those options to kind of help you along with your goals.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you again so much, Megan and Sarah, for joining us. Really appreciate all the information that you have shared today as we continue to go down the journey of what it means to grow in Christ, especially physically. I know I learned a lot today and going to reevaluate my shopping list probably, but really appreciate that. And I would encourage everyone to, if you haven't already, to sign up for our next webinar, which will be June 17th, where we'll be talking about how you grow in Christ spiritually with Reverend Peter Lang. But if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And again, thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks.